Hello friends, my name is Marina and this is Rapunzel Fiber Arts. So today what we're going to be doing is taking this combing waste from the Ahsoka shawl combing project that I've been working on, and we're going to take these remnants and not as good bits and we're going to turn them into yarn. And the way that we're going to do this is by carding them with hand cards into very, very airy Rolags, and then we're going to spin them up on my great wheel. All right, friends. So this is my great wheel. You can see it is very large. It stands at least 4 feet tall at the height of this wheel. When you turn the big wheel, it rotates this spindle, which is where you spin the yarn. As you spin, it incorporates twist, and you are able to make yarn and then wind it onto this spindle. Both the spindle and the big wheel are on supports which connect to this base. You can see at some point somebody carved NY into this. It's upside down right now. But I don't think that's a maker's mark. I think that's just something that somebody did at some point, either because they lived in New York State or because those were their initials. And that is my great wheel. All right, friends. So now that I've introduced you to my great wheel, I'm going to show you how I hand card Rolags. These are done on hand cards, not my drum carder. This is a prep under the same name, but this is a true Rolag, made with hand cards, made to be spun woolen. The ones that I make on a drum carder are kind of just a fun way to play with fiber prep and color, not so much a traditional woolen prep like these will be. I think once you see me card them up, that'll be pretty evident, but I wanted to preface that with saying that because it's a little bit confusing if you've seen those videos and you're like, those aren't the same kinds of Rolags. So it's really important to have a very airy prep when you're spinning on a great wheel, doing a true woolen spun yarn. So I've got a pretty small handful of fluff here. This is already very airy because it's combing waste, so it's been fluffed up. And I'm just gonna paint that essentially onto my hand card. There we go. I have a little extra that doesn't quite fit, so I'm just setting that aside. And then what I'm going to do is slide the cards against each other, just kind of catching the tips of these tines against each other. You don't want to crush them against each other and rip them apart because that's going to be bad for your hand cards. So hopefully you can see that I'm trying to just very gently tease out these fibers and transfer them from this card to this card. It's a little bit easier to do on my lap, so I'm probably going to finish that up on my lap, but I wanted to show you what that movement looks like. When I have this on my lap, I usually have it like this, and then I kind of pull the back of the carder away so that it can really catch those pieces of fiber. And then I've pretty much emptied this card. So I'm just going to do that, which transfers all the remaining fiber from this carder onto this carder. And then I'm going to switch hands and do the same process going from this carder to this carder. And now this one's empty, and this is very nice, airy, well-prepped fiber. So then I'm going to take this and roll it up into a Rolag. So I do that by tucking the ends up, and then hopefully this goes well. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. You press the teeth against each other and gently roll, and it makes a rolag. So this is what we're going to be working from. You can see it's incredibly airy. Like you can kind of see through it in spots. And that's what you want. You want something very airy, very fluffed, because what we're going to be doing is drafting this with one hand. So normally when you draft, you have two hands, you have a lot more control. With one hand, you really need to have a very well prepped fiber in order to make a very nice yarn. So you'll see what that looks like in a moment, but for now, I'm just going to card up a couple of these so we have a couple to work with when we go up and start playing with the great wheel. All right, friends, so now that we have gone ahead and carded a handful of Rolags, it is time to get started spinning on the great wheel. So I have gone ahead and attached this Rolag with a little bit of twist to the existing yarn there on the spindle. And now I am drafting back while I incorporate twist using my other hand on the wheel. So every time I turn this wheel one rotation, I get many, many rotations on the spindle, which the twist is coming off of. A great wheel kind of works like a supported spindle where you are spinning off the tip of a spindle, but the twist is incorporated by turning that wheel with your other hand that isn't drafting. You also see every so often when I have finished spinning out an arm's length, I need to go ahead and wind that onto the spindle. That's because this, like a drop spindle, does not have a tensioning system that you would see on like a treadle spinning wheel. So you need to manually wind it onto the spindle. So I am just adding twist and drafting to make yarn, which is what we always do. This is just a different type of technique that you can use. I also wanted to talk a little bit about woolen versus worsted spinning. So spinning like this is true woolen. I am using a woolen prep and I am spinning woolen style. And what that means is that I am letting twist into the drafting area as I draft. When I spin on a treadle wheel or my e-spinner, I usually use two hands to draft, and what that does is prevents the twist from getting into the drafting area. When I spin on a great wheel, on the other hand, I am drafting as the twist is in the drafting area, so there is much more air incorporated into this yarn. It's going to be much fluffier, much airier, and it's also going to hold warmth and heat a lot better next to your skin. So this is great for softer fibers that you really want to wear on your neck or your hands or like as a hat that will keep you warm. This is not going to wear super well, so you don't want to wear it as socks because you're going to wear a hole in it pretty quickly. Because there is so much air in that fiber, it's very easy to wear through it. On the other hand, when I spin worsted style, this is a style of spinning in addition to a weight of yarn, which I know is confusing, but it's just the way this terminology was created. So when you do worsted spinning, you're going to have a much stronger resulting yarn, but it's not going to hold warmth quite as well. Hopefully that makes sense. That's something that I really want to try to convey to you because those are kind of the two main types of spinning techniques, would be spinning woolen or spinning worsted. And this is the first time I've really shown you a woolen style spinning. So hopefully that makes good sense and we can get back to what exactly I'm doing here. So in addition to spinning and adding twist, I am also winding onto that bobbin periodically, like I said, just like a drop spindle. I also wanted to mention that this is a true woolen yarn because I prepped Rolags for it and I'm not spinning from a worsted style prep. I'm spinning from the most woolen style prep there is, which is a Rolag, and I am making a very true woolen style yarn. If I said worsted a second ago, I meant woolen. I hope I didn't say worsted. And you will also occasionally see me doing something called double drafting right here, where I am pulling apart the fibers with both hands to try to elongate and make that section a little bit thinner in the long run. So that's called double drafting, when you already have a spun yarn and you go and try to draft it further to make a section that's currently thicker a little bit thinner. Hopefully that makes sense. And I think at this point it also makes sense why this wheel is called a walking wheel, as you see me going back and forth across your screen as I spin this yarn, just walking back and forth, and then as I go ahead and wind onto that spindle, I walk towards it, and then as I draft, I step back and walk away from it. And so women would walk miles back when this was a household necessity. I believe that this wheel is from the 1800s originally. It is an antique, was found in an attic or a barn, I forget which, and a friend of mine helped me find it, helped me clean it and restore it. I think I used an entire box of disposable rags cleaning this thing. It was absolutely coated in dust and debris and grime. The color of it used to be like gray. It was so dirty. So this beautiful brown color that you see now is nice and cleaned and in much better shape than when I first got it. I also needed to get a new spindle for it. At some point, the original spindle had been lost. So I have a source for that. If you have a great wheel that requires a spindle, just reach out to me and I can get you that source. I just don't want to put it on the internet in case that source doesn't want to be contacted, if that makes sense. So reach out to me if you have a great wheel like this that needs a spindle, and I can get you in touch with that person. So yeah, this is an old antique, several hundred years old, and it's pretty cool that I am able to stand here and spin on it in the same technique that women did hundreds of years ago when this was, in somebody's house as part of their daily routine, walking and spinning yarn. Hopefully you can also see the technique that I'm using when I wind onto the bobbin or onto the spindle. You see that I reverse direction very briefly, walk forward, and then walk forward to wind it on, while I spin it in the direction that I spin in. So I'm spinning clockwise, I reverse it counterclockwise very slightly to line up the yarn with the yarn that is already on the spindle, and then I spin clockwise to wrap it on. Hopefully that makes sense along with the video that you're watching, and you are able to understand what I'm describing. So this spindle is now almost full. I'm just going to wrap up the Rolag that I am spinning off of right here, and then I will show you how I remove the contents of the spindle from the spindle. I think there's a way to do this using paper to give yourself kind of a sleeve that sits on the spindle, but I don't know how to do that, so I just pull off the whole thing. So here you can see me doing that. I'm just getting my fingers under all the fiber between that wooden piece and the yarn. And then I just go ahead and pull that off, which I will do momentarily. And then I have a section of finished yarn which I can ply from. All right, friends, so we have gone from our original combing waist to carded up Rolags on my hand cards, and now we have a finished cop. That's what this is called. It's a cop, C-O-P. That's what it's called when it's on the spindle, and now that it's pulled off, it's just the cop. You can see I have a red leader thread here in the middle. Just like on a spindle, it's helpful to have a leader thread when you're starting up filling a cop. So I'm very happy with this yarn. Great wheel spinning is not the easiest because you are drafting with one hand. So lumps and bumps like this right above my pinky are kind of par for the course. There are definitely some areas here that are thicker than others. Like I've got this lump of darker blue here right below my finger, and some areas that are thinner or thicker yarns. But overall, I'm very happy. Like I said, great wheel spinning is not the most consistent, so not making consistent yarn in this circumstance is not the end of the world. I'm still practicing. I haven't spun on my great wheel in probably a year prior to this cop in my hand. So I'm glad that I got back into it and was able to film a little video of me spinning on it for you. So I'm just going to continue on like this. I have this whole big bag of combing waste that I have to work through. And like you saw, I only put a tiny bit on my cards at a time, so I have to card up a whole bunch of Rolags, excuse me, and then fill up a whole bunch of cops of singles. And then once I do that, I can get to plying. I would probably just put this in a yarn bowl and pull from the outside and hope it doesn't get tangled in the process. I haven't done a ton of spinning from cops like this, so we will have to wait and see how it goes. I will try to film it so that you guys are part of the process and get to see how it goes, but I think it should go fairly well. If I have a couple tangles, I can deal. It's not the end of the world. So yeah, that's how you spin a yarn on a great wheel. That's how you make singles on a great wheel. I generally wouldn't ply on a great wheel. It's really good in one direction, not the plying direction. So I would ply this probably on my e-spinner or my Lendrum if I wanted a little bit more control and to slow things down a little bit. So that's going to be my plan moving forward, is to make a couple of these and then ply and then continue on processing and spinning and plying like that. So yeah, that's this video about spinning on my great wheel. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, or at least enjoyed sticking around with me while I made this yarn. If you liked this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, then subscribe to my channel. And if you have anything you'd like to say, please leave me a comment. I read all of them and I love getting them. So yeah, I hope that you have a fantastic day. I hope you get some good crafting in if you are so inclined, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye, friends.